Hey, what's good everyone? This is Air Conditioner. I make cartoons and talk about cartoons.
I got this.
Dude, you don't know anything about engines.
I know stuff. Check it.
Dude, get the extinguisher!
That's not my fault! I've never done that before!
Regular Show is anything but. Created by J.J. Quintel in 2010, Regular Show was one of the most popular TV shows of Cartoon Network, and possibly in the 2010s. It was up there with Adventure Time, The Amazing World of Gumball, Gravity Falls. Trying to think of other shows here. The point is, it was a hit, with its unique characters, relatable dialogue, and somewhat edgy humor. Some even speculate it was supposed to be on Adult Swim. And it was. And because of this is a show that I believe that kids and adults can be able to watch together. Regular Show is about two best friends named Mordecai and Rigby who both worked at a park. Now you think working at a park would be the most regular thing to do, right? In this world, nothing is regular. When it comes to Regular Show, anything can happen, which is probably what gave it its popularity at the time. It had merch, like t-shirts, hoodies, stickers, plushes. I mean, hell, if you go to your local Hot Topic or Box Lunch, there's bound to be merch of this show still. But yeah, they had shirts, pins, buttons, questionable toys, flash games, video games as well, a Fortnite pack, and today's topic, comic books. I previously did another video where I read the Regular Show comics, so let's read some more. I gotta tell you, some of these stories are crazy, but it does fit Regular Show's style, so in this video, we're gonna read some Regular Show comics and see if they still hold up today. So without further ado, let's jump right in. In my hand, I have issue 13, issue 15, and issue, 17? In this video, we're only going to go through 3 of the Regular Show comics. Starting off with issue 13, written by Minty Lewis and illustrated by Alison Stretchlow. One of my favorite artists of the comic so far. So whenever I get a Regular Show comic, I just get one not knowing what it's about. I just get it because of like what the cover looks like. Like this one looks pretty cool, you know, it's like a sort of monster truck derby. It's kind of cool. Like, I know the cover doesn't always determine what the comic itself is actually about, but I think it's cool that the comic artists, whenever they do a cover, you know, they just kind of go all out. It is kind of cool. But at the same time, it's kind of like clickbait, so. But again, this cover is really nice. I'd give it like a 8 out of 10 maybe. But enough of that, let's read this. Our story begins at the park. What a surprise. Here we have Mordecai, Rigby, Muscleman, High Five Ghost, and Eileen. So in the story, Rigby decided to invite everybody for brunch, except there's no brunch. He then has the idea to go to their payroll office downtown just to get donuts and coffee. The catch? They have to go in disguise. So when the guys go off to steal the donuts, Eileen decides to do her own thing, you know, go about her day. And Rigby's cool with this. So after that, they part ways. The rest of the comic focuses more on Eileen. She goes for a walk in the park, talks with Skips, and then heads home. We then see her at her house polishing some rocks? If you were a true Regular Show fan, you would know in an episode that they mentioned that Eileen had a rock polisher.
I got plans with Eileen. Brenda plans. She wants to show me her new rock polisher.
No one else likes to polish people's rocks. Mordecai.
Even though it's a small and obscure detail, I think it's cool that they reference this in the comic. We then see Eileen talking to somebody on the phone. We don't know who it is because they're not mentioned. My guess is that it could be CJ, because in the phone call they're talking about this guy, and Eileen says that these two people had history together, like how Mordecai and CJ had history together. And according to the wiki, this comic came out in July of 2014, which was around the Mordecai and CJ arc. So I know it sounds far-fetched. I don't even know if this comic is canon. Are the Regular Show comics canon? That'd be cool if they were, honestly. Anyway, Eileen goes to a yoga class later in the day. After the class, she's then met by this guy who just casually gives her his phone number. Bro's trying to spit game. I see him. But yeah, this comic is basically Eileen's daily routine. And I like it. You know, I think the best part about these comics is that they tell stories that they couldn't really tell or don't tell that often in regular show. Like, it tells stories of different characters and like other parts of regular show, and I think that's really cool. You know, like the people who wrote these comics, I don't know if they were fans of the show or knew what the show was at the time, but I think it's cool that they sort of got like the creative freedom that they had to like basically do whatever they wanted in the comics, you know. This way the comics can stand out on its own as well as being like very faithful to the show. Something I forgot to mention is that the writer Minty Lewis, yeah, that's just Eileen's voice actor, no big deal. She's also a storyboarder / writer of the show, which is honestly pretty cool. Someone who worked on regular show wrote this comic and voiced Eileen. It all makes perfect sense. No wonder this comic is so well written. It's like I'm looking at a completely different part of regular show. And that's exactly why I like the comics. Here it feels more in depth compared to the show. Not that the show's bad, it's just here it feels more like real. Wait a minute. Is that Eileen's dad? I believe this is the first time we've ever seen Eileen's dad in any piece of regular show media. Hell, we didn't even see him in the show until like season 7. Only someone like Minty Lewis would include this in the comic. The comic ends with Rigby talking to Eileen about his donut heist. I like that the comic ends with just Rigby and Eileen chilling. And the best part is that the writer for this comic worked on regular show. So because of this, they're able to make a story that is entirely accurate to the show, as well as something that we're not entirely used to, but appreciate. For all you Eileen fans out there, issue 13 of the regular show comics is a must. And it doesn't stop there. There are tons of regular show comics and stories where Eileen takes the spotlight every once in a while, and they never disappoint, so don't worry. Sometimes the comics have a one-off story in the end, and this one is called Mordecai and ... whatever that means. In the comic, Mordecai and Rigby are sitting under the makeout tree, while there's already a couple under the tree. And since they're under the tree, Mordecai intentionally tries to carve his initial with Margaret's. With Rigby, of course, saying it'll never happen. But when he does this, the tree then turns into a demon tree, because it's regular show. After trying to deal with the problem themselves, they then go to Skips. And Skips, being Skips, knows exactly what happened and knows exactly what to do. Sort of. He explains that when Mordecai didn't finish the carving, he somehow spelled out an eldritch incantation by accident, and that it happens every few years. They just need to go back to the tree, finish the carving, and contain it in a heart symbol. But the catch is that it has to be sincere and mutual, that it has to be real. And because of this, Mordecai is confident that carving his initial with Margaret will totally work, while Rigby and Skips are in denial. When they return to the tree, it then holds Rigby hostage, leading to Mordecai to choose whether to save Rigby or finish the carving. While choosing the latter, Mordecai claims that Margaret can't wait to date him. And then comes the big reveal. It turns out that Rigby is jealous of the idea of Mordecai and Margaret being together. He even tells Mordecai to finish the carving to save his own life, and says that he and Margaret will have a wonderful life together. So with those last words, Mordecai has to make a final choice with the carving. And whatever he carved on the tree saved Rigby's life and stopped the curse. It turns out that instead of carving M for Margaret, Mordecai carved R for Rigby, making it Mordecai and Rigby, with a heart. If this isn't somebody's fanfiction, I don't know what this is. But it does have a nice ending, showing that Mordecai and Rigby have a strong bond that is almost unbreakable, no matter how you interpret it. Well, that was issue 13. I gotta say, this is a nice comic. The cover's good, the stories are nice, it's good. The first one was good, showing a story about Eileen and like what she does, and of course written by Minty Lewis. It's always nice. And this one was good too. Even though it was sort of simple, it was a nice and enjoyable read, and again, a very accurate regular show comic. Well, there you have it. Issue 13 had 2 nice and enjoyable stories, and if you're interested in the regular show comics, I recommend getting this one. It's a nice read. But with that out of the way, let's move on to the next comic. Issue 15, I'm pretty sure, right? 15. I think it's 15. This time written by K.C. Green and once again illustrated by Alison Streslau. This comic is actually a continuation of a previous comic. In my last video, there was a comic where Mordecai and Rigby were in the coffee shop, and then these people came over, the yuppies as they were called, and they basically started to hang out in this coffee shop, leading to like more people coming over, and then the whole place just started to morph, and it just isn't the same place anymore. So what happens now? Let's see. Mordecai and Rigby try looking for Margaret among the crowd. They then find Margaret, but with all the people in the coffee shop, she's too busy to even talk to them right now, telling them that if they want coffee, they have to ask Eileen. Come to think of it, are Margaret and Eileen the only people who work at the coffee shop? Like, is it just them two? I'm surprised they're able to keep up with the place. It's impressive, really. When Mordecai and Rigby find Eileen, they ask her what happened to the place. Apparently, when Eileen first arrived at the coffee shop, the place already looked like this, almost as if the place morphed overnight. So then, Eileen gives Mordecai and Rigby their coffee on the price of $10.50 each. What is this, Starbucks? For Rigby, that was the last straw, and he let everybody know, saying that the yuppies ruined the coffee shop with the expensive coffee. What Mordecai and Rigby don't know is that the yuppies are secretly bugs in disguise, because of course that makes sense. I just want to focus more on this page right here. Like, look at the way this is drawn. Like, the way Alison Stretchlow draws things, it's like very detailed and somewhat like unsettling. Like the way that the fly bug creature face just pops out, and then you still see like the human face split open. Like, this is straight out of The Fly or John Carpenter's The Thing. So just like that, Mordecai and Rigby get the hell out of there. Mordecai even suggests that if they just take a few extra hours at the park, they might have enough money altogether just to get a regular cup of coffee at the coffee shop. He even doubles down, saying that maybe he'll take a second job just for Margaret. And that's where he gets too far. Rigby says to Mordecai that it's their right to have a cheap cup of coffee, something that the yuppies took from them, and that it wasn't just a coffee shop, but a safe haven for them. And because of that, they're taking back the coffee shop. So they hatch a plan. This seems kind of far-fetched, but what if this comic is actually a commentary of how upper-class customers can affect local businesses, forcing these businesses to be more mainstream to the public? I mean, in the beginning, it was just a normal coffee shop, and the minute these guys show up, the entire place changes. The more customers show up, the bigger the place gets. The more popular it is, the more expensive the menu is. It's just like Starbucks and other coffee shops. Mordecai and Rigby then return to the coffee shop, in disguise. They're here to trick everybody that there's a better coffee shop out there than the one that they're in. And while they think that the plan's working, the yuppies then confront them. And then the comic ends with a cliffhanger, with the entire crowd of customers turning into bugs. Well, this was an interesting comic, but no, seriously, it was good. Well, I guess I'll have to find the next issue to see what happens next. But for now, on to the next story. In a previous comic, Mordecai and Rigby were moving costumes and old relics from historical figures. And now the spirits of these historical figures are out for revenge. So of course, Mordecai and Rigby find Skips. For those who have watched Regular Show before, you would know that this is pretty much every episode of Regular Show. Mordecai and Rigby do something, they mess it up, they find Skips, and they deal with the problem. That's like every episode. Literally. Well, not literally, but like, mostly that's what the show is. At least like seasons 1 to 3. Or 4. Skips is making a statue made of toothpicks when Mordecai and Rigby come over and mess up his progress. So what do they have to do this time? Skip says that the only way to beat a ghost is another ghost. That's where Fipes comes in, because, you know, he's a ghost. So then they all go to the roof. Skips' plan is to basically launch Fipes to the ghost using a slingshot. So we're basically out here playing Angry Birds, but instead of a bird, it's High Five Ghost. And with that, the comic ends with a to be continued. Will Fipes be victorious? I guess I'll have to buy the next issue to find out. Well, that was issue 15, another Regular Show comic with 2 interesting and entertaining stories. My favorite one so far was the one with the coffee yuppies. That one was very interesting. It's a good story. Given the premise, I'm not sure if it's a commentary or an analogy for something, but either way, it was a nice and very interesting story. And now, let's finish this off with issue 17, the last comic of this video. Or actually, I'll think about it. This comic is written by Nick Sumida, I think. And for the third time in a row, illustrated by Alison Streslau. Let's begin. Spring break! It's spring break at the park. There's food, drinks, water balloon fights, concerts. Everyone is having a good time. Especially Mordecai and Rigby. That is when they're stopped by Benson. He says that since everybody's on spring break, that means that they have to look after the park. Rigby says that it's not fair, but then Benson explains that each year they all take turns looking after the park, and that this year is Mordecai and Rigby's turn, making it the definition of fair, which actually makes sense. I mean, yeah, like, if they got to, have fun at the park while everybody else is working, then sure. I mean, it's just one time, so can't be that bad. While Mordecai and Rigby are stuck on cleanup duty, Pops is having the time of his life. Bro's just frolicking around without a care in the world. Meanwhile, Mordecai and Rigby are acting salty, which honestly makes sense. So then they decide that maybe they might take a break just this once. They ask Pops if he can watch the place while they're on their break, which isn't gonna be that easy, since the poor guy already gets ambushed. But that doesn't matter right now. What matters is that Skips is making his world famous barbecue hot dogs that Rigby wants to steal. Hope those hot dogs aren't sentient. Mordecai gets his hands on a hamburger when a volleyball hits him. And you're not gonna believe this. It was CJ. Yeah. I believe this was around the Mordecai and CJ arc, so in this comic they're totally cool with each other. Which is good. For now at least. CJ is apparently part of a volleyball team, and she introduces Mordecai to some of her teammates. Ruby, Jade, and Crystal. So their names are Ruby, Jade, and Crystal? These girls are hella swole, and Mordecai feels somewhat overwhelmed. He even lies, saying that he lifts weights himself. Meanwhile, Muscleman and High Five Ghost are having a yard sale. Even Muscleman himself is surprised that Mordecai and Rigby are on a quote-unquote break. That's when Mordecai and Rigby get busted. Apparently a couple of vandals have been trashing the park in plain sight. They even managed to tie up Pops in a tree and paint all over him. Understandably, Benson is frustrated with Mordecai and Rigby's incompetence, so then he leaves them to clean up the mess. While cleaning up the mess, Rigby rants about how Benson always tells him what to do, which I mean, he's the boss, that's kind of his job. And while cleaning, Mordecai and Rigby find a mysterious cave in the park, which of course they go inside. Here they find all sorts of junk, including a mysterious bottle that Rigby proceeds to lick. Why did he lick it? I don't know, it's Rigby. But when he does this, the bottle begins to shake, and then a mysterious creature appears. Apparently this is a genie that Mordecai and Rigby awakened from the bottle, but based on her look and personality, this seems to be a millennial genie. You know, like millennials. She's sarcastic, bored, and doesn't even want to be here, which for some people might find it relatable. Apparently this is her backstory. She went to study graphic design, dropped out, and is now a freelancer. Which honestly, as an art major, this is probably the realest thing I've heard in the regular show comics so far. Like, you can tell that whoever wrote this, Casey Green, either went through this or had a friend who went through this. But yeah, since this is a genie, this means that Mordecai and Rigby can wish for whatever they want. And Rigby already has something in mind. He wishes for Benson's downfall. He wants so that every bad thing that happened to him and Mordecai happened to Benson. And for Rigby to watch the entire thing unfold in laughter. Even though the genie is hesitant, I'm pretty sure it's implied that she makes the wish for Rigby anyway. And so with that, the comic ends with a to be continued. What will happen to Benson? Who knows? I'll just have to buy the next comic to find out. Wherever I can buy it. The next comic is called Local Politics. Politics? In my regular show comic? I'll allow it. Just this once. Only because the artist of this comic is Matt Rupert. Matt Rupert is a fairly popular name in the comic business. Besides working on the regular show comics, she also worked on other Cartoon Network comics as well. Some include Adventure Time, Steven Universe, Bravest Warriors, and even some books that she made herself. One of her recent books that I actually have is called Bunt. It's honestly a pretty solid book, so if you want, you can check it out for yourself. But now, on to the video. Rigby has announced that he wants to run for block president. I guess he wants to be more involved with the community? Nah, the real reason is that if Rigby gets more involved in the community, he can get an extra afternoon a week off. And the best part is nobody else is running for block president, so Rigby has this in the bag. Or so he thought. It just so happens that 2 more people are running for block president. We have Cedric Walther, who is a retired staff sergeant. And of course, Rigby is pretty intimidated by this guy. And then we have Elise, animal controller. There's a running gag where Elise is like the one candidate nobody really notices. But somehow, some way, she will win the election. Meanwhile, Benson is in his office looking at the park manual. And that's when he finds out about Rigby's scheme. We then get a campaign montage between Rigby, the army guy, and Elise, where the army guy is succeeding flawlessly. Rigby is later in his room. He believes that somebody is helping his opponent with his campaign. And he was right, because Benson was helping him the entire time. Benson says that a slacker like Rigby doesn't deserve the extra afternoon a week off, so he's been helping the army guy win the election. And of course, Rigby isn't too happy about this. He then makes a wager, saying that if he wins, then he gets a full paid day off a week for a year. And if Benson wins, then he'll have to work an extra unpaid day every week for a year. And if you're wondering, yes, I was reading the panel as I was going. So then, Benson accepts. It's finally election day, and we can finally see who got the most votes. And wouldn't you know it, the winner is Elise. Yeah. According to Skips, by not campaigning around the clock and just asking nicely, she won the election. Now that she's the block president, she orders Rigby, the army guy, and Benson to clean up all the flyers that they made around the park. Well, that was the end of issue 17. Actually, it might be my favorite one so far, besides issue 15 of course. Well, I guess we could end it off with one more comic, an honorable mention if you will. This comic actually comes from one of the people who worked on Regular Show, Madeline Queerpel? I'm sorry I said it wrong. This comic is actually focused on Margaret, based off of the events of Regular Show Season 8 where they all went to space. Margaret is writing a letter to Eileen. Without her and everybody else, it's been kind of boring on Earth. Which is kind of funny because like everything that does happen is basically their fault, so. Margaret went to visit the spot where the park used to be. And wouldn't you know it, she ran into CJ. Kinda awkward. She helped Starla look for a new apartment and even went to some of her mud wrestling matches. We even see a cameo of Thomas, the GOAT himself. The last time we saw Thomas, he was on the run because he was secretly a Russian spy, as we found out like later in the show. And at some point he mentioned that maybe when he's finally free, he will open his own video store. I always wondered if he ever did make that video store business. And as a matter of fact, he did. Apparently, Margaret heard about this new video store that opened up in Montreal, and it only rent out spy movies. And it just so happens that the owner is Thomas, or looks like Thomas. It's Thomas. Either way, it is nice to know that Thomas finally made his dream come true after all this time. Later on, Margaret once again runs into CJ. This time they're kind of forced to sit with each other, so they talk some more, and then they hit it off. Margaret says that talking to CJ was actually cool, and it's kind of sad that they couldn't really do this before, you know, cause stuff. But who knows, maybe at some point they might even be best friends. And then the comic ends. You know, we never saw Eileen read the letter. Hell, we don't even know if she ever received it. But I'm assuming that at some point, she did. But honestly, it was nice to see both of them in the last episode, especially what we know now. But the comic itself is really amazing. Like, I didn't even know this existed until I did research for this video. And honestly, everyone should read this. It's really something. I'll put the link in the description if you all want to check it out. This comic is nice, but I think what makes it special is that it was written by one of the people who worked on Regular Show. So in a way, this is canon. So, in this video we had 2 comics who were written by people who worked on Regular Show. And that is honestly amazing. I might sound like a broken record, but this is what makes the comics special. When it comes to the Regular Show comics, you'll never know what you're gonna get. Well, there were so many amazing stories in these Regular Show comics. We had some good ones, some weird ones, some really good ones, but overall, these were all entertaining comics. And yeah, unfortunately Regular Show did come to an end, but I do think that they are gonna make something this year called The Lost Tapes, I'm assuming. But yeah, If you miss regular show but can't get enough of it, read the comics. I mean, I don't know where specifically. I mean, your local comic shop, online, anywhere you can find them, I don't know. But if you do find them and read them, I hope you enjoyed them. Well, this is the air conditioner signing out. And remember, if y'all want me to do another video like this, just let me know in the comments below. That being said, like and subscribe, and I'll catch you next time. Peace.